I'm wondering if the viewers notice our smooth and sultry tones here
Yeah.
on the podcast. In
Good
the
Lord.
last week, Joseph and I both have upgraded our microphones.
Much to both of our wives, I think, were a bit perplexed.
When you told me you bought yours, I immediately told my wife, Joseph just bought a microphone, and I think I should also buy a microphone. And then she saw how much they were retailing for, and she said, I think you should look on Facebook Marketplace for a used microphone.
Hey, looks like you got one too.
Yeah, it was a great deal. I'm excited. I feel like the quality of the audio needed a little bit of a boost. So hopefully
Listen, we've been
a little
doing
bit.
this for 3 years. I mean,
It was time. It was definitely time. All right, Joseph. Well, welcome back to another episode of Dads of Dagobah, where this evening, we will be discussing Chapter 3 of the Book of Boba Fett, The Streets of Mos Espa.
Yeah, it was pretty sweet. I was trying to think today what the word of the day would be, like litter was last week. I still haven't really come up with the good one. The best one that I could come up with, though, is your girl right here, Kira. That's the word of the week. Who is all but guaranteed to be in a future episode of Book of Boba Fett. You heard it here first.
Hopefully, because that's about the only thing left I have to look forward to.
Let's get into that, Sean. Your question today, let me pull it up real fast. Your question today, if you don't mind me quoting you directly.
Yeah.
Is this show actually good, or are we just blindly loyal to Star Wars? I was thinking a lot about that question today because I felt differently after watching the episode. But you tell me, what do you mean by that?
What I meant by that was, I think that episode 3, chapter 3, was another step backward. I thought episode 2 was way better. And now 2 out of my 3 episodes, I feel like, for this show, are kind of like, all right, it was okay. It's such a slow burn. Such a slow burn. And I feel like I'm going crazy that people on Twitter are acting like that makes this show absolutely genius, that this is like the greatest show ever created. And I'm like, I guess I just don't get it. I don't get it. I'm ready for a change of pace. I'm ready for something different. And I'm just
Hey, Sean, we got a car chase today. How about that for a change of pace?
I feel like I am getting a watered down, lower quality version of The Mandalorian.
Huh.
That's all I'm getting out of this show right now.
Wow, Sean with the hot take.
You tell me at the end of this episode today, why are we still watching? What are we like? What's the hook? Why are we excited about next week? For a possible character cameo? That's the only reason we're watching?
It's not a character cameo. She's going to be an integral part of this season. I mean, we all know the best syndicate of all syndicates are the Pikes. Everyone loves the Pike Syndicate. If it's Hutts versus Pikes, everyone's taking Pikes, right? Oh, what?
Kira's not even with the Pikes. She's with Crimson Dawn. So I don't know why we care about the Pikes.
I was making a joke there, Sean. I enjoyed the episode. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed parts of it, and I think we'll talk about parts I enjoyed. I think the part that I didn't like the least was the Hutt and then Black Chrysanthemum scene because of. Oh, that's it? So we're done with that now? I mean, I think it's probably a little false flag they're showing us. Like, we're done with the Hutts. We're done with this awesome Wookiee who, by the way, is the worst bounty hunter I've ever seen in my entire life, but we'll get to that later. And then they're like, oh, but the Pikes. And I'm like, we care about them? We do? And then I was just confused because I was like, the flashback was confusing because he goes and talks to the Pikes, and then the Pikes are bad. And I'm like, this flashback is now getting confusing to me because we're kind of catching up, and it's hard to keep track of what's present day and what's not, right?
So I say let's just start from the beginning and go through the episode, because that scene that you talked about with the huts and Black Chrysanthemum, that scene to me was the crossroads of the episode where they made all the wrong decisions narratively and made me feel like, why am I watching this?
Okay, let's start off. We start off with, yet again, we're starting in Boba's palace. We're hearing about the different, how Bib Fortuna split up the city into 3 different regions. Basically, he wasn't the great crime lord that no one really thought he was, but he wasn't anything up to snuff with Jabba. He basically just said, let's all divvy it up and let's keep the peace, kind of in a very loose way, right?
And did you hear he was paying the mayor?
Right. Which makes sense why the mayor's guy would ask for a tribute, right, at the beginning of the season.
Yep.
Then after that scene, we go to where do we go next?
Well, we go immediately because the watermonger guy comes in and is like, hey, there are some street youths that are stealing my water. And I'm offended on your behalf.
I will increase my tribute if you go and take care of this. Can we talk about the street youth for a second?
The
weird.
4 destitute urchins, you mean?
They're weird. Like, first of all, is that just Cyborg? Like,
listen, I feel like they tried to play off that scene as, oh, Boba Fett realized that they're actually the victims. This watermonger guy is charging outrageous prices for water, and the young people of Mos Espa are like, we don't even have jobs. We don't have work. Look around you. We're destitute. He's charging a month's wages for a week's worth of water. And I'm like, you have cyborg droid parts for your body and chrome, brightly shiny colored chrome looking like brand new scooters. You obviously have some money.
Yeah.
You have money for your droid body parts. You have money for your scooters, and you want to sing this sob story about this guy's charging too much for water? I don't buy it.
Yeah, it was a strange storyline. It was a strange way of basically like increasing Boba's crew. I mean, is that the main gist we're getting out of this? Because in the end, it seems like the water guy, he's done, and we're now added 4 new people to the crew, right?
Yeah, and I mean, I guess it's a good thing that we did add him to the crew, because we go back to Jabba's palace. Okay, so then we're back in the Bacta tank, and we go back to the flashback. And I actually I've pulled a whole 180 now from where I was in the first episode, because now I'm like, the Tuscan Raider flashbacks to me are the best part of the show now. I'm like, give me more of this. Let me just do the whole thing.
No more Tuscan Raiders.
And then, never mind, that's over. So he does his epic bantha ride through the Dune Sea to go to Mos Eisley. Did you see the little Easter egg? The lady from The Mandalorian was in the background with her pit droids. Curly-haired lady. So I guess that kind of answers our question we had last week about when is this happening in terms of the fall of the Empire, because they're putting stormtrooper helmets on Pikes already.
This must be post,
post Battle of Jakku.
Oh, you think this is a year after Endor?
I think so. I think it's long enough. He was with
the Tuscan Raiders and the Sarlacc for more than a year?
I don't know. You made me second guess. Anyway,
I think it's post Death Star 2. But anyway, he talks to the Pikes. The Pikes are like, we already paid our thing to the biker gang.
yeah.
And so then he has to go fight them, I guess.
So he leaves, and this is the question. So now he's going back on his bantha, obviously traveling at the speed of a bantha, which is very slow. And smoke is pillowing into the air. He probably should have seen it way farther away, but all of a sudden he looks up and is shocked that he's like 100 yards away from the smoke and just sees it for the first time. And the question Corey and I had while we were watching it is, did the Pikes send the biker gang out there to attack the Tuscans? Or was it just coincidence that the one time Boba was gone talking with the Pikes, the biker gang happened to attack the Tuscans?
Well, I mean, the rest of the episode, the present day makes it seem like the Pikes are the bad guys. So that's a good point. And I didn't think about that, but it sounds like the Pikes maybe sent them.
I think it adds more weight if the Pikes sent them, because it would give Boba more motivation at the end of our episode to be like, I don't like the Pikes.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I felt sad that we lost our Tuscan friends, because I was convinced that they were going to play a bigger part in the present day story.
Oh yeah, for sure. That's what I thought too.
And I was waiting for them to show us the dead carcass of either the little child Tuscan, which maybe was too intense, so they never showed that. And we also never got to see the corpse of the female warrior Tuscan. And so I'm holding out hope maybe they escaped and survived.
Well, I think the gaffy stick that he throws in is the little kid's gaffy stick.
Oh, yeah, he does a little one at the end, huh? You're right.
So I think the child is dead. I don't know about the female warrior. It'd be great if she stayed around, but you're right. There was no. We just saw the leader, who was the only confirmed body that we saw that was recognizable, right?
Yeah. So anyway,
I mean, that was his Luke Skywalker going back to the homestead moment. Like, the decision's been made for me. Like, if there's any sort of like, what side am I on? Am I going to stay with the Tuscans or what? The decision's made, you know.
And it may be too soon, but as soon as we saw all those banthas, first of all, we're on track for 3 for 3. Every episode, we're getting dead banthas. I mean,
I think I counted
they
like
need to
4
put a disclaimer at the end of these episodes that no banthas were harmed in the making of this show, because all I see are dead banthas all over the place.
You're telling me they're not useful in any way, those banthas, for food or anything?
They need to be milking. They need to be milking those banthas for that blue milk. Listen, so when we get to the Tuscan Raider part and it's all the whole camp is on fire and everyone's dead, my wife literally said, "Did Anakin come through here?" And I was like, seriously, it looks like they pulled an Anakin Skywalker up on this place.
So that's the flashback. And then, Sean, can I ask you a question? We're going back to present day. You are a bounty hunter, and you're trying to get me, right? Mm-hmm. You're trying to kill me, right?
Yes.
I am asleep in a sealed pod with no senses of the outside world, and you're trying to kill me. What is the best way to kill me?
Probably to open the sealed pod, allow you to kind of come to your senses a little bit so you're still disoriented, grab you and throw you out and let you kind of get up and let's fight mano a mano.
Okay, Sean, here's another question. You're a person with a blaster, seeing a large Wookiee with no range weapons, looks like only close combat tools, brass knuckles, electric knuckles, but you have a range weapon. You have a blaster. How do you take out someone? Do you A, shoot them from a distance, B, shoot at them while also walking towards them, or C, none of the above?
I'm probably going to jump on his back and try to strangle him.
I did not understand this fight scene in the least. It was weird. It was weird.
So
Go ahead.
I was going to say, first of all, as soon as it happened, it was shocking. It was like, whoa, okay, rip us out of the back to tank. But immediately my thought went to, how in the world did Black Chrysanthemum get all the way to the back to tank without anyone being alerted?
Blends in.
Nobody is on watch. Where are those Gamorrean guards?
I don't know.
What are they doing?
How many entrances are there? It seems like there's just one, the big door.
And then poor Boba is there basically just like a diaper looking thing. And Black Chrysanthemum is manhandling him. Like throwing him. This is, I mean, Tamora Morrison, this guy's like in his 60s. And he's getting tossed around like a rag doll. And he hits his jetpack with the rocket thing. I'm like, that jetpack doesn't have a single button that you can't just shoot that rocket.
Yeah, he was like fumbling with it. Like,
he gets, plasma blast or brass knuckled right in the face. And then, even when our street youths come in, the youths of the nation,
Jets.
Yes, when our urchins make their appearance. First of all, the girl is playing it too cool for school. She's like moseying up to Black Chrysanthemum.
Yeah.
Let me break out my knife. I'm just here. Ha! And I thought to myself, where were they this whole time?
Mm-hmm.
And their entrance was a little bit strange.
It was a stand around and wait fight too.
Well, yes. The other thing was, while they're all fighting, if you notice, Boba Fett is still getting just destroyed. Like the kids are all kind of dodging, and Black Chrysanthemum swings his arm, and Boba like flies 50 feet and hits like the back to tank again. And I'm like, he's taking the brunt of this. The kids like aren't even getting hurt in the least, and Boba's like flailing and flying across the room. Now, some parts that I did think were cool is Boba like took the gaffy stick and basically embedded it in Black Chrysanthemum's shoulder and had to like get it out at another part of the fight. That was kind of cool. But this brings me to my biggest question from this whole sequence of Black Chrysanthemum. Apparently he's supposed to be a feared bounty hunter, gladiator Wookiee, can't handle 4 kids off of Mos Espa, the streets of Mos Espa. Boba's basically beaten.
Yeah, he's yeah.
Then he gets pushed out into the throne room. The Gamorrean guards put up 0 fight, like no resistance. He basically bites a chunk out of the guy's, shoulder, or his jugular, just rips out part of his flesh. He seems to still have the upper hand. And the whole time I'm thinking, where in the world is Fennec Shand?
Yeah.
Now that the entire posse is alerted and fighting this Wookiee, Fennec is still nowhere to be found. And then once Black Chrysanthemum is standing perfectly on the 4x4 square that he needs to stand on, Fennec runs out from a backstage somewhere.
Hey, give him there, guys.
Everybody, get out of the way. Rancor pit. He falls. I'm like, have you been there? How long have you been standing back there?
How more telegraphed can that action be? Like, obviously, I think in canon, Black Chrysanthemum knows Jabba's palace and knows about the Rancor pit.
And has a relationship with Boba Fett.
Right.
Yeah. That whole sequence was a little bit like, okay.
You know, last week how you mentioned Fennec Shand, how she's just this one-liner sort of person? I felt the same way this week. I'm like,
oh, yeah.
She is not getting much of anything. And I feel bad because I feel like when she does do things, she's awesome. But like today, it was just like, knife in the hand. Like, I want to see her go at it.
So I talked about this at length with my wife after we finished watching, and she was of the same opinion. When we saw Fennec Shand in The Mandalorian, she was like cutthroat. And we're supposed to believe that she's supposed to be like this master assassin. There's no equal, super intimidating. And through the first 3 chapters of Book of Boba Fett, I feel like she's mostly used as like comic relief that doesn't really land, and just so underutilized. Like, I don't think it's Ming-Na Wen. Like, it's not her fault, the actress. Like, she's doing great. And I just want to see more Fennec Shand and like more character development for that character.
Well, I mean, in the fight scene, wouldn't she be perfect to be in the fight scene?
Yeah.
And she wasn't used at all.
Well, so last week we talked about like, oh, is this going to be the big bad of the season, and is there going to be a big showdown? And I said yes. I'm like, obviously there's going to be a major showdown between Boba and Black Chrysanthemum, and I'm like, well, I guess we got it already, and it was kind of lackluster.
It wasn't even a showdown. It was disappointing.
I just feel like we have now gotten multiple scenes of Boba getting his butt kicked. And I'm like, is he ever going to like be able to hold his own in any showdown?
It's so different than The Mandalorian, where he was kicking trash of the stormtroopers. I mean, it's stormtroopers, but I mean, still, he's kicking their tails and, is, blowing up that ship. And he's like, oh, I was aiming for the other one. And he's doing his sonic charges in Slave One. I mean, we had an awesome Boba Fett in Mandalorian, and we're not getting it right now. And we're like, but why? I mean, why the dichotomy? Why the difference between the two? I get it. The show's trying to show that he's old and stuff, but that's not what was set up in Mandalorian.
Yeah. And I don't necessarily, a lot of people are complaining like, oh, they want Boba Fett to be ruthless, like they sent the infamous bounty hunter that we know from the original trilogy, all this stuff. I'm like, okay. I don't think that we need to like swing the pendulum so far that he is like invincible, but a little bit I feel the same way that you just said. I'm like, I don't get the character. I'm not understanding. I feel like they have tried, because Boba and Fennec are supposed to be like the good guys, they're our protagonists. That has diluted the characters that they established in The Mandalorian, or even established in the original trilogy for Boba. And it's like, okay, they're supposed to be the good guys, so are you trying to make us like sympathize with them? Are you trying to make us like them? Is that the motivation? Because I think that's an undercurrent of all of these decisions that Boba is making that are just complete head scratchers. Like, these don't seem to be smart decisions if you're trying to be the daimyo of Tatooine.
Yeah. Do you think it's we're getting way in the weeds here. Do you think this is a Disney problem? Do you remember a game by the name of Battlefront 2 with Iden Versio, where we were promised this awesome, from the Empire's perspective sort of story, where she's part of the, what was the name? The
Inferno Squad.
And we're like, oh, sweet. This is going to be awesome. We're going to play as the Empire. It's going to be an awesome story. What was it? Level 2? We're switching sides and joining the rebellion. And like, okay, I get it. But like, can we not have a character that we love to hate? Or, this fallen character? No, I mean, it seems like there's like, nope, they're always secretly good on the inside,
Yeah. Yeah, so, I mean, the Black Chrysanthemum showdown, I felt like was a little bit disappointing, but he falls down in the Rancor pit, so now we got him in the Rancor pit. We see Fennec and Boba in front of this opulent feast. Boba's clearly not hungry. He's mad at the droid that's just trying to serve him some food.
Get back on sentry duty.
Yeah, like that little droid is going to be leading the charge on a patrol. And this is the part again where I don't get Fennec when Boba's like, I need to respond. And Fennec all of a sudden is super. In previous weeks, Fennec has been like, hey, you need to be like,
Ruthless.
you need to be on top of this and you need to be ruthless and all this stuff. And now she's like kicking her feet up on the table, like, enjoy the trappings, like, just hang out. I'm like,
it's all good.
Who are you? And why are you flip-flopping now? When Boba's finally ready to get serious and you're like, nah, we don't need to do anything. And then it seems like we don't need to do anything because miraculously our droid butler guy comes and is like, the twins are here. They have a gift.
That transition was just like, it was just weird. It was so like, we have to make a response. We have to wait. They're here. Oh, okay. Well, there we go. Anyway.
And I'm assuming that this is like literally the night before, in the middle of the night, is when Black Chrysanthemum attacked. And now we're the next day, and the Hutts are there with a gift. And this is where, I know I've already been very negative this whole episode, but this is where I really started to feel like you're losing me on the decisions that you're making. Because we get the Hutts now, which I was very excited about last week.
Oh, yeah. I was like,
okay, yeah, let's see it. And we basically get a little sequence that tells us the Hutts are like, peace out, we're giving up.
This cannot be the rest of the season. This cannot be like, I hope. We were talking last week about how we're going to go to Calhutta, what's the name of the planet? And
Nalhutta,
and take on the Hutts. And I was all excited for the showdown. And then they're just like, oh, we sent a bounty hunter to kill you. And it looks like he didn't. So see you later. There's someone else more powerful that we're more afraid of. Like,
I didn't get how or why these Hutts, after finding out that the mayor's working with the Pikes, all of a sudden that scared them enough to where they're like,
oh gosh,
you know what? It's not worth it. We're going to leave. And here's a gift for you. We're sorry that we sent Black Chrysanthemum to try to kill you. To me, the whole time I was thinking, if this is true, if they really are like, we're just going to go back to Nalhutta, why even go see Boba Fett? Why not just leave? Just leave. Who cares? Just leave. But instead they come and they bring him a Rancor, and we get Danny Trejo as the Rancor Whisperer that is coming up. And I actually, this is the problem. And the crux of my question to you today, which is this show actually good, or am I just blindly loyal to Star Wars? And this scene is a perfect example, because when the Rancor came up, my interest peaked, and I'm like, ooh, a Rancor.
Ooh, shiny.
And I felt like, that's interesting. I'm kind of into this. And so there are parts of the show and the world building that they're doing that I'm drawn to, and I like it, and I enjoy it, and I'm interested, and I'm like, ooh, yeah. But overall, I feel like the narrative and the character development, I think, is mediocre. I'm like, I don't think you guys are telling that good of a story. It's just in a world and a backdrop that I have invested so much time in that I am interested and I enjoy it.
Mm-hmm.
But overall, I don't think that the story is very good.
Yeah. I felt the same way. That whole scene, I was just like, oh, the Hutts. Oh, the Hutts. Okay. And then it's like, oh, I thought Black Chrysanthemum was going to join the crew. I was like, oh, they're going to just like, and then he's just like, peace. And I'm like, oh, okay. Well, 0 for 2. Ooh, a Rancor. Oh, it's kind of sad. Okay.
It's depressed.
Don't get me wrong. I am very excited for the Rancor. Whatever they're setting up with Boba Fett riding the Rancor, that sounds awesome. But yeah, it didn't make, like, if it was in reverse, where it was the Pikes at first who were like, this is our territory, we're claiming Jabba's thing, and then the Pikes leave, and then you see the Hutts come, you'd be like, oh, the Hutts, you know. But no, it's like it's a complete opposite. And you're like, I thought the Hutts were the big dogs in town, you know?
Yeah, I would have said before this episode, based on my perception of Star Wars, the Hutts would be a bigger name in the crime world than the Pike Syndicate. Now,
Yeah.
the Pike Syndicate is obviously well known, and it's not like they're nobodies. But to me, the Hutts are kind of the top of the food chain. And so I guess, I mean, the sister Hutt was like, Tatooine is just a worthless rock. Like, I guess they're both kind of like, it's not worth the effort. But even still, I just think, again, last week, everything that they set up that got me interested, I thought, okay, these are good hooks. These are things that I feel like I want to see. All of them basically in that scene. Are you okay over there?
I'm just making sure my microphone's one directional.
Oh, okay. Everything in that scene, they basically either resolved or destroyed those hooks.
Yep, 100%.
And I'm like, best case scenario, I can hold on hope that Fennec saying to Boba, do you think the Hutts are telling the truth? And he's saying, I have no reason to believe they're telling the truth. I think they'll benefit from us fighting each other. That's the only thing I can hold out hope, that the Hutts were bluffing. But I'm like, that was a very elaborate ruse to bring him a Rancor and say, yeah, we're leaving. And then he said, and then Boba's still like weirdly trying to negotiate them, like with them, like, I'll give you back Black Chrysanthemum if you renounce your claim on Jabba's territory. And they're like, we don't care, we're leaving, and you can sell him back to the gladiators if you want. He's our tribute to you. And so I'm like, what? Are they really just leaving? They're just like, they're not gonna anyway. So that was disappointing, I will say.
No,
If we take it at face value and they actually are removing themselves off the board, so to speak, they're taking themselves out of the game, then that's a little disappointing, because I was excited about their presence in the show and in this dynamic. And then, like you said, inexplicably, Boba is like, all right, set Black Chrysanthemum free, and then doesn't even try to say, like, do you want to stay with us? Do you want to work for me?
No hard feelings.
He's just like,
let's work
no
together.
hard feelings. Go your way and don't work for bad guys. It's not worth it. Okay, bye. I hope you reform yourself and you become an upstanding member of society. And I'm like, what is happening? What is happening right now? I don't get what is happening. And so, before we move on to the Rancor and that little scene, that the Hutts and Black Chrysanthemum leaving brings up the question in my mind: what is Boba Fett's motivation? Why does he even want to be the daimyo of Tatooine?
I don't know.
Because he intimately knows how Jabba operated.
Yeah, how he ruled, right?
He also knew Bib Fortuna. And by the way, at the end of The Mandalorian Season 2, he goes and he murders Bib Fortuna in cold blood, in like the most cutthroat way, kicks his corpse off of the throne and sits on the throne like, I'm the crime lord now.
I totally forgot about that. And now he's like,
And now he's like, I want to rule with respect. And I'm like, what did you think this was going to be? You knew what this was, and you seemed to want it, and now you're acting like it was never part of your plan to be a crime lord. Like, okay, I'm not a crime lord.
But this is the last time. I'm going to kill Bib Fortuna, and that's the last thing I'm going to do. That's it.
Yeah. And back to the water scene at the very beginning, when he first meets the street youths, and the girl, like almost like an insult, hurls at him, "You're just a crime lord." I'm like,
did you call him an old man too?
Yeah, But I mean, specifically that one when she was
Yeah.
like, "You're just a crime lord," as if that's supposed to like hurt his feelings. I'm like, yes, he is. That's what it is. That's what he wanted to be.
Uh-huh.
That's what this is supposed to be. So I don't understand why that all of a sudden is like this derogatory slur towards him, where he's like, "No, I'm the daimyo of this territory." I'm like, I thought you wanted to be the crime lord.
Yeah.
I don't get what his motivation is. Why does he want to be there? Why does he want that job when he knew that it was to be the head of a crime family? And now he seems to bristle at that and want to be this respectable leader for the area. I just don't get it.
No, I agree. And let's go back to the Mandalorian. Their hook was the baby, right? And then all throughout you knew, hey, he wants to take care of this thing. He wants to get it back to its master. He wants to get its own kind, whatever it was, right? Protect the child. I think last week we left thinking, okay, now we get a little bit of what Boba Fett's intentions are. He's standing up to the Hutts, standing up to people and saying, I want to take this thing and I'm going to be, in charge here. But then this week we're like, okay, well, maybe that isn't what he's going for anymore. And even then when they're like, oh, he wants to be the crime lord, we're like, okay, but what is he actually doing to do that? He's going around saying mean words, but that's it. Like, it's so different to see him speak to the Hutts and speak to the mayor, but then like his actions don't show anything,
Yeah. Well, I think that you've actually solved their problem with what you just said. The Mandalorian had the baby. And if we're going to salvage the Book of Boba Fett, we need a baby Hutt.
Oh,
We
yeah.
need, from the Clone Wars, remember, Jabba had a son, and we
That's
had a
true.
little baby Hutt. And I think it's time for Jabba Jr. to be making an appearance.
I think we passed over it already, but back to the flashback, we did see the exact same Camino scene again.
Yeah.
What do you think? I know I'm really excited about Camino because I just want to see what they're going to do there. But what are we supposed to be taking from this Camino stuff?
Obviously, I have to assume it's intentional that it's the exact same footage.
Yeah.
We didn't get any new footage, which it's like a recurring dream. So I started to analyze. So what is it about this specific scene? Him basically seeing Jango leave. But I thought, oh, is that when Jango's leaving to go to Geonosis? But then I'm like, no, because Boba's with him on Geonosis.
Or when he leaves for Coruscant to kill Padme.
Maybe. But I mean, why would that be significant? I was only thinking if it was like the last time he left and he was going to go die. But it's like, no, because Boba went with him. So I agree with you. I'm starting to think, is this all we're going to get of just in these flashbacks? Well, now I'm wondering, will we continue to have flashbacks? Is there a need for flashbacks? Because the Tuscans are now dead.
Well, I think he has to take care of the biker gang, right? Or the Pikes, like we said before, maybe the
Oh,
Pikes.
yeah, you're right. So we got to see what he does in the past to the biker gang and the Pikes. But I don't think that he can even really, he's not going to have the real estate because that Gamorrean guard is going to be in that Bacta tank. They're going to have to get a bunk bed. They're going to have to make a bunk bed Bacta tank. Hey, scoot over.
Okay, so after the front door of the palace scene, we go to the basement, to the dungeon with the Rancor. It's an interesting scene. It's a fun scene. It sets up something big, I feel like, where Boba's going to ride a Rancor. It really was funny because it gave a lot more depth to that scene in Return of the Jedi when the Rancor does die, and the guy's name is Malakili. Yep. When he's all crying and sad and comes in because they talk about how Rancors form an emotional bond with their people they imprint on and stuff. And I was a little, not to get into the weeds a little bit, but I was a little confused about who was being imprinted on. Was it the Danny, what's his last name?
Trejo.
Trejo. Was he going to be imprinted on? Because he's like, I've been training him. But then it looked like Boba got imprinted. So
So
Anyway,
I feel like this was probably my favorite scene of the episode. I was really into this part. I was like, okay, cool. Was it a little bit hokey for Boba to be going and like scratching behind the ears and like,
he
oh yeah,
likes
that's
that.
the spot.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
the spot. A little bit, but I'm like, all right, I'm okay with this. And yeah, the whole like Danny Trejo being the Rancor Whisperer, my interpretation of that scene was that Danny Trejo's character was planning to be the one
Yeah, to
that
be
the
imprinted.
Rancor imprinted on, but instead saw that Boba was already so invested in like treating the Rancor as an emotional creature and not just a beast of burden or anything like that, that he kind of had this change of heart, like, hey, stand over here, I'm going to have the Rancor imprint on you. So I almost feel like Boba kind of gained some respect there from Danny Trejo's character. I don't know what the guy's name is, but
Is it a mirror of Boba Fett, this Rancor, this thing bred for war and destruction and fighting and death, but it has an emotional side, and Boba sees that in the Rancor. Like Boba also has an emotional side, and deep down can make emotional connections, even though he's bred for battle.
yeah, that's a good insight. I also think that similar to the suspense they put us through, wondering what Baby Yoda's real name was, now I need to know what this Rancor's name is. What is he going to name this thing?
Yeah. Then we go. Well, then the droid comes and says the mayor can't meet them for 20 days. And then we get my favorite scene, Sean, the speeder chase. But before that, we go to the mayor's office. The guy locks the door. Boba goes up and says, "Did he lock the door?" And do you notice what Boba does? He's just like, "I think he locked the door." He like pushes the button twice. Like, "Oh, Boba, do you think that's going to unlock the door? Is you pushing that big red button? Maybe if I push the button." But then we get this chase scene. I get it. I understand people like them. I know there's some Back to the Future references. I know there were some funny things about running into the painting from Mount Ralph McQuarrie about the Jabba's palace. I can't stand them. I can't stand pod racing. I can't stand the Canto Bite scene. I can't stand the Coruscant chase.
First of all, you take that back about pod racing.
Listen, it's not interesting.
It's way more interesting than whatever we just got with that weird speeder chase.
Did you? That's true. Did you? There is that similarity between Anakin going up and over Sebulba and what's her face, Jyn Erso's daughter, who goes up and over bad guy too and lands on top of him. Basically, I was like, oh, a little Anakin pod racing. But I've always wondered, like, how does going so like Sebulba and other guy are on flat ground going straight, right? Other person is right behind them, but has to travel up and then down, but yet somehow overtakes them or gets close. I don't understand the physics there, but anyway, because
First of all, it's Star Wars, and so Tatooine obviously has a different gravitational effect and pull. So don't be trying to apply Earth's physics to Tatooine.
Okay, sorry.
But what I will say about the speeder chase is, yeah, it wasn't very good. But I think a couple of things. One, even though the budget for this show, I'm sure, is very high compared to a lot of TV shows, it's not like a feature film. And so they spent their money other places than, on this to do really great effects on this speeder chase. I was even thinking, like, last week, the train scene was, like, great.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Like, really, really good effects. And this week was a little meh. Okay. I felt like the whole time the speeders seemed like they were going very slow.
Yes, I felt the same way. I'm like, is this a slow speed chase right now?
And then all of a sudden at the end, when the mayor's major domo like ran into all the fruit, which did you notice is the same fruit that Ezra is always obsessed with in Rebels?
Mm-hmm.
Then they have that one shot that we got in the trailer where the girl like comes up really fast and like skids over to the side. And that one shot, I said, that was as fast as that speeder moved this entire episode. Just at the very end, all of a sudden, she came zooming in and skids to the side when I'm like, you were going like half that speed this whole time.
Yeah. I felt the same way. I was like, moving very slowly. And the colors of the speeders just seem out of place. Like, maybe it's not that big of a deal to anyone else, but I was just like, what's up with this red, bright blue, bright yellow, bright green, like little Power Rangers thing going on here or something about to morph into Megazord. Anyway.
It looked like they would be more, they wouldn't stick out as much if they were like on Coruscant or something like that.
Yeah.
But on Tatooine and Mos Espa, where everything is obviously gray and beige and sand color.
And they have no money.
And they have no money. They can't afford the water. But they've got these slick Back to the Future speeders. But yeah, I wasn't super bothered by that more than I just was like, all right, another chase scene here that doesn't really add a whole lot. And then Boba at the end he jetpacked the whole way and just shows up.
He's just like flying over.
And then the mayor's major domo like gave up the information like that. Like, the mayor's with the Pikes. He's with the Pikes. Like, sorry that I literally just destroyed every street cart and kiosk and place of business in Mos Espa. But yeah, he's with the Pikes.
They're getting the information quite quickly, aren't they?
Yeah. So that brings up the very last scene here where the Star Cruiser's coming in and all these Pikes are coming off the Star Cruiser. It's like the Pikes are back in town.
And we're afraid of them, I guess.
We're afraid of them. And one of our street youths goes and does a little phone call to Boba and Fennec, and Boba does a really weird joke about keep an eye on him.
Keep an eye on him. Oh, sorry about that.
Sorry, that's just an expression. And if he wouldn't have said that's just an expression, I would not have even caught that pun or that was like a joke.
It was weird.
But then the kid is like, I paid a lot of money for this eye. I'm like, money you should have been spending on water.
And then it's like, I can't remember that we'll prepare for the worst, or I can't remember what the last line was, but I'm like,
Fennec says they've come to war. And I'm like, they've come to war? That doesn't grammatically make a whole lot of sense. Or the way she says it, I'm like, that doesn't make sense. And then Boba's like, well, then we'll be ready. And I'm like, with who?
Yeah. With you just released Black Chrysanthemum, remember him?
Yes, with your 4 little street urchins, 2 Gamorrean, I'll say 1.5 Gamorrean guards.
A depressed Rancor.
Black Chrysanthemum was maybe your best bet, and you just let him roam free. Like, see you later. I don't get how you're going to be ready for this. And I'll go back to the question I already asked. I don't know why you would want to be ready for this. Other than if the only motivation is he still hates the Pikes because the Pikes are responsible for massacring the Tuscan Raiders, then maybe I see that as motivation. Other than that, I have no idea why Boba Fett wants to be the daimyo of Tatooine.
And it's interesting we bring up now that maybe it is like, hey, I want to fend off the Pikes, but he didn't know the Pikes were coming for the first 3 episodes of the season. So what was, just like you said earlier, what was his reasoning before this, right?
Yeah.
I just want to sit in the throne, I guess, and not eat the food and not do anything bad. Anyway. It's confusing. We did have a cool scene, though, where the frog thing ate a bird thing, which ate a smaller thing, which is the reference to there's always a bigger fish, which I think someone else mentioned, like, this kind of the same thing of this whole episode of, like, there's always a bigger fish. Like, there's Boba, then there's the Hutts, but the biggest fish, I guess, now is the Pikes. And some people may be wondering, let's talk about Kira and why I think she's going to be in this. We see in Solo, they do go to Kessel, where the Pikes are mining the spice. And, Kira's there, obviously. She doesn't join them there. She later joins Crimson Dawn with Darth Maul. I haven't been following the comics, but I have been following rumors that she is going to come into a live-action series. People are saying like Ahsoka or Obi-Wan or the one of those series. I think she's going to be in this series because it sets up perfectly. We know she's still around. At least in the comics, she's still alive, even up until this time. I think this is the perfect time to bring her in and use her. I think that would be a great use of her. So that's why I put my background as her. And a little Chewie back there, too. Let's bring him back.
Yeah, Chewbacca needs to get in on this. What it needs to happen is Kira needs to be in this with Chewbacca and young Han Solo. And, younger Han Solo. Not Alden. Not the guy that played Solo in the Solo movie.
Oh, they're going to bring back Harrison Ford?
They're going to have to use that technology to de-age Harrison Ford.
So Return of the Jedi Harrison Ford?
Yes. With the Harrison Ford we got in the Battlefront 2 campaign where he's got the beard.
Oh, that's right. He does have that beard at Maz's castle, right?
Yeah.
Wasn't that like a skin that you unlocked like the very first week or something?
And it's still the skin I have equipped. No, I think it would be cool and fun if Kira showed up. But I'm going to be a little bit of a naysayer here and say, don't do it, Kira. Emilia Clarke, don't lower your standards. Hold out and tell Disney that they need to make a full series titled Crimson Dawn that you are the star of. You don't need to come in here and be a side character to Boba Fett. This series, we're 3 episodes into a 7-episode run.
That's weird to me. What?
They're not going to do
halfway.
They're not going to do Kira justice if she comes in at this point. So just stay away. Stay away, Kira. And let's just deal with the Pikes and be done with this show and move on to Obi-Wan. That's what I'm looking for.
Let me ask you a question then, Sean. Over under 70%, we're going to see Kira in Book of Boba Fett.
Under.
You're taking the under on 70%? Taking the over. I think it's a foregone conclusion.
How would we even quantify this? You're giving under 70%? If she's in it, then it's like, well, then obviously that was a terrible prediction. If she's not in it, it's like, well, then the 70% is arbitrary. Yes or no, is she going to be in it?
I'm saying yes.
I get, but here's the thing. If she is in it, and we're talking way too much about this hypothetical probably, but if she is in it.
We need to hold on to something. There needs to be something in our future here.
That's true. I will say that. I said that at the beginning that I'm holding. This is the only thing I would even be holding out hope for at this point. But if she is in it, I would assume that she'd be representing Crimson Dawn, not the Pike Syndicate. And so to me, that adds another layer of sloppy storytelling into this that Boba started, and he's just trying to corral the people that were already in the 3 factions that Bib Fortuna already had split the Mos Espa up into. And then we have the Hutts on top of it with Black Chrysanthemum. Never mind, yank them out. Now it's the Pikes. Are you telling me that next episode or in episode 5 or episode 6, it's going to be like, never mind, the Pikes are out because Crimson Dawn is on the scene now. And we're going to go through 4 different syndicates, 3 different syndicates. Because first of all, we still haven't gotten the scenes from the trailers and the promotional things of Boba sitting with all the Trandoshans.
Yeah, the Godfather scene. Yeah.
And so that's still going to happen. I assume he's going to, the Trandoshans and the Aqualish, he's going to call all of them and say, hey, we got to fight against the Pikes.
Here's why I think it's Kira. because of my point earlier, where I thought the Hutts were the bad guys. I thought they were the super bads of the crime families, and they were afraid of someone. And I thought, okay, I'm thinking from a Star Wars fan perspective, and Disney and Jon Favreau trying to write a story that hooks people. If the Hutts aren't it, then it's got to be someone else that the fans are invested in, right? If it's not the Hutts, the giant slugs, it's got to be someone else cooler and badder. And to throw in a Pikes, where most of their story is from Clone Wars, and most people haven't seen Clone Wars, it's like, really? We're sacrificing the Hutts for the Pikes? I didn't like that. That's why I thought when the Hutts were talking about there's someone else, immediately I thought Crimson Dawn. It has to be Crimson Dawn, who everyone is afraid of. Because that would be a better tie-in for the Star Wars fans to be like, oh, I know Crimson Dawn. They're from that Solo thing. And, oh, Amelia Clark's back. Oh, cool. Do you agree? Like, the Pikes aren't the hook for me.
I think mostly my heart is just very glad and happy that you finally are acknowledging that Solo brought so much worth into the Star Wars galaxy.
I'm trying.
You just admitted that Crimson Dawn has a weight, a legitimacy from that movie.
Of course it does. More than the Pikes. Solo, I failed to mention, also has a car speeder chase.
You heard it here first. Joseph thinks that Solo is better than the Clone Wars animated series, and I'm glad he has seen the light.
I didn't say that. Maybe Bad Batch.
Well, and again, I still there's a small corner of my mind that holds out hope that maybe next week or in week 5 or week 6, or maybe it'll take all the way to week 7, that I'll get on one of these episodes and say, you know what? I couldn't see the end from the beginning, and it all worked out, and it was fantastic, and I loved it. But as of right now, I don't like the choices they are making.
Well, I felt like the same way. Episode 1, we're both like, Episode 2, we're like, okay, this is great. We love this show. Give us more. Now we're like, So I have all the confidence that we'll get more. Jon Favreau has not let us down yet. And, if we would have asked us after the Frog Lady episode on the Ice Planet, what's the future of Mandalorian Season 2? No way we would have said Luke Skywalker's coming and destroying a bunch of Dark Troopers on Moff Gideon's Star Cruiser,
Yep.
So, and Ahsoka Tano's showing up. And they mentioned Admiral Thrawn about, all that stuff, right?
I said this last week or the week before. Mandalorian Season 1 was a slow burn, and it took an adjustment for me to be like, oh, this isn't what I thought it was going to be. But I ended up liking it. Then Season 2 I thought was a huge improvement from Season 1. Mandalorian Season 2 was phenomenal. Like, I loved it. Now, Book of Boba Fett Season 1, the first 3 episodes, I feel like, is the worst of the 3.
Yeah.
It's worse than Season 1 of Mandalorian, and it's worse than Season 2 of Mandalorian. So far I'm like, well, this is just a lower quality version of what we've already gotten, which is what I was trying to talk about last week, that the show doesn't have its own brand or identity. It's just the same thing as The Mandalorian so far. And I think we need to either change up the pace. We need to switch it up somehow. And it could very well be that episode, that he's going to ride the Rancor. And when he does, we're going to think it's awesome. Mm-hmm. Like, that was awesome. Love that. But I'm like, I still go back to this idea of, will scenes like that make up for lack of...
No, they can't carry the season.
Right. Like, you can give me really cool moments in a Star Wars setting that I'm going to geek out about and think are really fun and really interesting and really cool. But that can't make up for a lack of narrative or character development that, that has to drive the story. And then on top of that, you need to layer it with really cool Star Wars stuff. I'm sure people disagree. I'm sure that I already know they disagree because people on Twitter are acting like this is the most genius show they've ever watched, and that Boba Fett is everyone's favorite word, is such a nuanced character. The nuance that Boba Fett's bringing. I'm like, nuance? He's supposed to be the most infamous bounty hunter ever, and then came and murdered Bib Fortuna because he wanted to usurp the throne as the crime lord. And now it's like he's got cold feet and doesn't want to make anybody upset. He wants to have everybody's respect. I'm like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, I think they're trying to explain some of this change of his with the Tuscan Raider storyline, but it doesn't mesh as like, oh, because he befriended the natives and became their friend and learned how to live with the Tuscans, now he's a man of honor. But oh wait, he'll kill Bib Fortuna, and oh wait, he'll just be this. Yeah, there's a whole lot to Boba Fett that we're like, okay, is he good? Is he bad? What is he? And it's not working yet.
I'll tell you who the winner of the Book of Boba Fett is. The Tuscan Raiders.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Because they were obviously very misunderstood in the original trilogy. We got a little bit in Mandalorian, but now we've gotten an awesome amount of content about the Tuscan Raiders.
Oh, and the Rancors. Rancors and Tuscan Raiders. Misunderstood.
It's understood. And that episode 2 propaganda would have us believe that they're just these heartless mother killers. Frankly, I was surprised when that swoop gang went in there and they killed, not just the men, but the women and the children too.
They're animals.
They were animals. Slaughtered them like animals. Disturbing.
Speaking of Hayden Christensen, Obi-Wan's coming out soon. I am so excited.
I almost feel like they purposefully are giving us a mediocre Boba Fett show because they're going to blow our socks off with Obi-Wan. They're like, let's lower the expectations. Because guess what? We're going to still be on Tatooine.
Hey, but we're getting Darth Vader. You know what? I was thinking today, watching that episode, this show desperately needs some lightsabers because that fight scene was hard to watch. And that's why I was like, oh, but Obi-Wan's coming up, and that's going to have lightsabers and Darth Vader and Obi-Wan. I don't know if they're fighting, or I don't know what I think actually they did say, aren't they? I thought someone said like a little teaser, like they are going to fight. Anyway.
Well, that concept art shows Obi-Wan and Vader clashing lightsabers.
Oh, that's right. Yep. Uh-huh.
Here's the thing. You and I think, have always differed on this a little bit. I remember past conversations we've had where you've expressed that you really like the stories about the normal people in the Star Wars universe and kind of that type of story, the soldiers and stuff. I have always been more on the side of I want the Force, I want the Jedi, I want the lightsabers.
You're like,
Yeah. I want the Force and Jedi and Sith and lightsabers. Like I enjoy the Mandalorian. This other Star Wars stories have a place and they have value and I enjoy them. But I am just naturally drawn more to that kind of mythological fantasy element of Star Wars. And so, yeah, I'm ready for a show that focuses on the Force again and gives us the Force and a Jedi and Obi-Wan and lightsaber duel with Darth Vader. And then I'm ready to move on and get different shows like The Acolyte. I want a different tone, a weird show that's High Republic, Dark Side High Republic. I want the Ahsoka show. I want to move on from
Cassian Andor.
I think Andor is going to be kind of. I'm already anticipating Andor it'll be okay, I think. How's that for a promo?
Bad Batch season 2.
So what are you excited for the new Andor? Put it on the poster. I think it'll be okay, I think. That's the quote.
Are we on another sand planet? Anyway, we've talked for now an hour.
Well, this was a much longer episode. We obviously had some repressed feelings. We were like that Rancor, feeling a little depressed.
A little sad. Sad Rancor face.
And so we needed to get that out. But I enjoyed our conversation this week, even though clearly we are not on the hype bandwagon that others might be on.
So no one can accuse us of being shills for Disney.
I'm going to continue to watch.
Yeah.
And I'm going to continue to give my opinion on the show. There were things I liked about it, some cool moments. I liked the Rancor scene. But there are some decisions that had me scratching my head. And overall, I don't get the overall direction of the main character or the show.
We know.
So leave a comment down below on why you agree or disagree with our assessment.
What is Boba Fett's reason for taking over the Hutt Palace? Oh, and we got the monks. We got the monks. That was cool.
What would you name the Rancor? Leave a comment down below. Feel free to like and subscribe if you have not yet subscribed to the channel. And we will see you again same time next week. And until then, Joseph, we have spoken.
This is the way.
And we'll see you next time on The Dads of Dagobah.
Oh, did you want to do that on your own?
We're doing ASMR outros.
Salty socks.
We'll see you next time on The Dads of Dagobah.
Sad Rancor.
Chicka papa, chicka papa.
Okay,
that was a Doug reference. All right, bye.
We don't. We know.